The United States men lose big in Atlanta. Is there a shakeup coming to USL's front office? And what you need to know for this week's World Cup ticket window? That and much more on Monday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Kicker on the show that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. How you feeling? My name, Robert Kerr, local soccer guy on location on the west side of Michigan today, but coming to you and to my side, Jason Davis, radio soccer guy. How you feeling on this wonderful Monday morning?
I'm doing all right, Rob. I see you're on the road. Hence the little bit less enthusiastic, Rob Kerr. It seems like you maybe are being considerate of people who might be in a room next to you in a hotel or something somewhere, in an Airbnb perhaps.
Yeah, thankfully everybody is awake, and it's an old house, so there's plenty of buffer between everybody. So I don't have to be too quiet, but being respectful. You're very astute eye and ear from you, Mr. Davis.
I do. I hear things in the background, perhaps. I don't know if that's me or you. Shout out to the Clank the Clanger shirt I'm wearing right now. I got a Clank the Clanger shirt. Very famously said one time by Rob Kerr on the
I have it.
The store link in the chat for all the ultras this morning. So if you have not picked up your Clank the Clanger shirt or your Dot the Map shirt or your hoodless sweatshirt or your hooded sweatshirt, perhaps, you can do so. Or your jersey, which, yes, the first edition run has been submitted, and you will not be able to get one of the first ever MK Ultra jerseys, but you will be able to get your hands on one if you so choose at the Fourth Wall website. So, yeah, go do that.
Yeah, exciting times. The order is in. Bastion is making them now, and they should be sent in the mail shortly. So those eagerly awaiting their MK Ultra jersey, it is progressing, and you will have yours before you know it. And I wore my Dot the Map hoodie at the party last night and got a lot of compliments on that. So hopefully we'll see a couple more Dot the Map hoodies circulating around Michigan at the very least. But it was an action-packed weekend. Locally, domestically, internationally, so much went down. We'll try to broach as many of those topics as possible, including some saucy stuff coming from USL leadership. Things didn't go so well in that second half for the US men's. And then we're also going to touch on World Cup tickets, another window coming out. So we got our friend of the show, a TravelFutbolFan, to break down the complexities of yet another ticket purchasing window. You can reach out to us to provide any tips, show questions, or business proposals. morningkickaround@gmail.com. You can also check us out on the social medias at mkickaround on all the variety of social media platforms. And if you'd like to donate directly, I want to say thank you to Mr. Bob for always being so generous with his donations to the show. But you can also donate ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. Is there anything else to hit up before we get to the show?
I just want to say hi to everybody, all the ultras who rep every single morning when we're live. And yes, we've announced some changes are coming down the line, but while we have the opportunity, let's shout out to Bill. Jeff was in here talking about France basketball being like US soccer, at least on the men's side. Maybe we'll talk about that idea. A Rowley NBA is here. Who else do I got? I know our man Mad Pup is in the UK watching in his afternoon. We appreciate you. Not an ultra, can't get that comment on the screen. Roger is here. John is here. FC Neo Tokyo, my man Mitch is here. Chris is here. Bloody Bob is here. Armando is here. We already mentioned Mr. Bob. Shout out to him.
Hey.
John again. Sorry, John getting here. Tulsa Mario. Buenos dias, Mario. How are you? What else? I got Soccer Night in Detroit is here. You met Soccer Night in Detroit?
Yeah.
You did. Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, there was it was a social hour there. I kept on bumping into people left, right, and center. I bumped into producer Jenny. We watched most of the game together. And then I saw our guy from Detroit Soccer Night in Detroit, said what up to him. He was on the field level, and I got to see some veterans of OCFC as well. They had a little box there right next to. So it was hello, lots of handshakes, and good to see us at the game. It was bitterly cold, but thankfully no wind or rain. And the 4 o'clock kickoff did us well. We were in the sunshine. It was only like 40 degrees there in Hamtramck for that game. And we'll talk about that when we talk about player protests.
Yeah.
But a great day and a great day to meet some of the ultras. There was Tim said he was there, but I didn't bump into him. But a fair amount of ultra representation
Nice.
at the game in Detroit.
Nice. Michael is here. Shout out to Michael, and Dave Townsend is here as well. Shout out to Dave. All right, everybody's checked in for the moment. If any more ultras gather, we will throw you up and say hello. But Rob, I know that there's some fascinating stuff happening in the USL, so let's dive in.
All right, long balls for Monday's edition of Morning Kick Round. Let's do it. Welcome on in. It's Long Balls here on Monday's edition of Morning Kick Round. I'm Robert. He's Jason. It was week 4 of the USL Championship season and the 4th week in a row of player protests. This week we got some visuals of it, but there was the moments of stillness in the beginning of the first and the second half. But then there was an added wrinkle to that as well.
Yeah, no play protest. You can call it stillness if you want. It's a no play protest for the first minute of each half. Remember, last week, the escalation happened where instead of just the opening minute of the game, it is now the opening minute of the second half as well. Before we do that, I want to set the stage with this post from the USL players on their Instagram where they are doing a lot of their social media commentary. Let's just say that. It's been 575 days since they started bargaining. Rob says it right there. This post, I think, is a couple days old at this point. So I guess that's 576 or 77 at this point. That's more than a year, if I do my math correctly. I think it's significantly more than a year. Not 2 years, but it's a lot. And remember, the actual CBA expired on midnight of December 31st, 2025. So they have been operating as they've been negotiating without a CBA since then. As we have established, as long as there are good faith negotiations, as long as no one strikes or the owners don't lock out the players, there is a situation where the previous CBA carries over and kind of governs everything that's happening. But as you said, moments of stillness. Let's go actually to our man, Robert Kerr, a reporter on the scene in Detroit, Michigan, Hamtramck site of this protest. So the wrinkle here, Rob, is that the players are gathering around the center circle rather than standing in their primary positions.
Yeah, everyone, once the whistle blew, the players like kind of quietly and genially gathered at that center circle, most putting their hands behind their back. That was part of what we were saying, like just them standing still didn't necessarily look out of the ordinary, but them doing the hands behind the back, coming together a center circle. And the reaction was a lot of the same, though. Like the Northern Guard were chanting, "Pay the players." The center section on the other side with the dedicated fans, they were singing in unison, "Pay the players." And then the kind of the folks around us, there was a lot of like, "Oh, what's this? What's that?" So it was a mixed bag of like people supporting the players. There was no anti-player sentiment that I heard, but like a mix of, I guess that's spreading awareness, I suppose. Those people that were asking, what is this? Have it. But I did hear some people say around me, like, they should just strike already.
Well, okay. Now, obviously, we've talked about why that would be an extreme escalation on the part of the players. Obviously, you strike, you ain't getting paid. And that's a problem when you don't have a ton of money in your strike fund and your money is going to have to come from other unions backing you. And what do we establish? I can't remember. It wasn't the AFL-CIO, but there was another union that is in partnership with the USLPA and athletes, and they were going to give them a $400 a week stipend, or maybe it was even a month stipend. Was it a month, Rob?
I think it was $400 a week, actually.
A $400 a week, which still isn't very much, especially this day and age. We got $4 gas, so how are you going to pay for anything?
That's like 2 meals, a tank of gas, and not much more.
Yeah, look, and obviously, like that's not where they are. And I'm not blaming the players. But we did talk last time with the change of just the first minute of the game to the first minute of the second half as well, as to whether or not the this escalation makes a difference, whether it actually does any more than the previous first protest, which again was the no play for the first minute of the game. Rob, do you think gathering at the center circle, which is a much more obvious sort of signifier for the fans to kind of perk up and go, "Hey, what are they doing? Why are they doing that?" That I do think there's something to this. I just don't know how much of an escalation it actually is.
It's an inch by inch escalation. It is like literally just a step farther or just a couple of feet to the center circle. I mean, they did with that. It's another symbolic gesture. We're not going to work for this 1 minute. And in around the circle, they showed some unity that is not just one team, that it was something together in unison, but it's an inching. I mean, I heard some speculation, people saying like, oh, do they continue to do this and then, pull the rug out at an important moment, maybe just before the playoffs? That's a long way down the road. And how many inches of escalation would it take to get all the way through the season? But at some point, I don't want this to become like how the taking a knee is just part of the programming of the pregame thing. 4 weeks in, the broadcasters and the operations on site can be like, okay, let's do the anthem, the player walkout.
We know what we're dealing with here. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
They can plan for this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and you mentioned the knee, right? And they're still doing the knee in England. It's still this thing of, it's a nod in the direction of this righteous cause. Now, obviously, this is different than sort of a societal cause, which is, standing up or kneeling because of racism, right? Which is what that comes from. But so in that sense, Rob, I don't know if this does a lot more. You said there were some people asking, what's going on here? And maybe that does. And as we've already discussed, there's some distinct limits on what the players can do, how far they can escalate. I saw somebody post, one of our ultras say, keep adding time. Chris says, keep doing the play stoppage, add time. Now we pondered about that, right? 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. You start to undermine the competitive integrity of the game when you do that. You start to make it look like you're the problem rather than the negotiations being the problem, because people have paid their money, right? That the players are very, very aware of this, cognizant of this issue of the fans came out to pay their money, support us. How much do we want to punish them while we try to make our point about what's going on with the CBA negotiations?
But they're still providing the product for the company and for the people, though. Like, obviously, they're stuck in the middle to a degree that they don't want to disappoint fans, so that they don't stop coming right in the future. Like, I spent my 30-40 bucks or whatever the ticket was, and they didn't play, and so I'm not coming back. But at the same time, at times like this, withholding your labor, I think, is almost at some point becomes a conversation of absolute. It's like, you either get it or you don't. The league still got the product, they still got their labor, although with a moment's hesitation at two different moments within the game, but they got it. And it's hardly a protest if it's in the rundown sheet of the day, right? If you can, schedule out 1 minute for protest, and here we go. That's not really a protest at that point if it's not disruptive in some way. Like, if it's baked into the rundown sheet, I don't know how much it's doing. So
Once
to
it becomes
review, we went
normalized.
from a moment at the beginning,
What?
a moment
Yeah.
in both halves, and then
Mhm.
now a moment of both halves at center circle. So it's like,
Right.
what's the next inch that they can go?
Right. Yeah. So once it becomes normalized, it no longer has that power. It's not, again, this is why you have to escalate. This is why you have to change it up. This is why you have to do different things. Now, is there an idea that the whistle blows, the referee puts the ball down, the whistle blows, the players walk off the field to the sideline, perhaps? Like, maybe visually that's more stunning than even the center circle situation. I mean, everybody's attention is on the center circle. Oh, they're standing around. Are they, somebody die? So what's going on here? Like, I feel like that probably is a line of thinking for a lot of fans. But imagine if they walked off the whistle blows and they walk off the field, but they don't leave the pitch completely. They don't walk into the tunnel. They don't strike in that moment in a sort of obvious we're no longer playing way. But maybe they step off onto the sideline. Maybe they stand arm in arm on the sideline instead of something. Again, I'm just throwing out stuff, and I don't even know again what the appetite is. It seems as though we're hitting a point of diminishing returns on this. But of course, we're on the player's side in the sense that the league needs to step up and provide the professional standards that they claim they want to meet when they go to this big plan of a D1 and Pro Rel.
Your idea kind of sounds like a first-minute hydration break to a degree, and
Well,
exhaustion from that warm-up.
Yeah, sure. But obviously I'm saying something more visually striking than just going up and squirting water in your mouth. Like I'm saying, do something that is, again, the solidarity of the players is important here, right?
Yeah.
And when everybody's in their positions before the whistle blows, it looks like you're just two teams lined up against one another. Everybody's standing around the center circle, right? This is something. But again, it almost looks like they're ready to do a drill and training. It almost looks like, again, you could argue like, oh, hands behind the back. Oh, they're honoring somebody, right? It's not clear to me that this is about a work issue, a labor issue. That's all I'm saying.
And to just briefly answer this question from one of our MK Ultras, Riverside Grove, are there any owners aligned with the players? There's not a lot of specifics with that. From what we understand, 80 to 90% of teams are providing these standards that the players are asking for. And it just sounds like there's a few instances or clubs that aren't able to get there.
It's not even that, right? So that's a status quo. That's de facto professional standards in a lot of places. And there are owners who definitely want to meet a professional standard and are trying to do right by their players as they provide a product, as they build their team. Lots of these owners are smart enough to know if I undermine the product on the field by treating my players like crap, I'm not going to have a team in a couple of years, or the value of my team is not going to go up to benefit me if you want to be cynical about it. But it needs to be in writing. It needs to be in paper. It needs to be agreed to, so every team is held to that and gets punished if they don't, right? So some backstop against, we don't want to pay the players insurance this month, or we don't want to provide a proper physio staff, right? Whatever it might be that helps the players do their job. It needs to be in writing. It needs to be agreed to.
We'll see how this progresses. My only other escalation for another inch would be crisscross applesauce, which I know we talked about. Get the players all cross-legged, and for photography, I think that's a good image.
I'm just going to say this. I'm going to bring up your image one more time, Rob. If they sat down, they could play a hell of a game of duck, duck, goose. I don't know what you guys call it up there. Maybe? Parachute. Get the parachute out. Get the balls on the top of the parachute. Yeah. It's not you guys that call it something different, right? It's the Minnesota people that call it something different.
What, duck, duck, goose?
Yeah, duck, duck, goose.
I'd love to hear what the Minnesotan
I think they call it duck, duck, gray duck or something like that.
There's they don't want to even mention geese there. They're like, none of that. And apparently Canadians are very mad at us for calling all the geese Canadian geese. They're like, they inhabit everywhere, not just
geese. These asshole geese are our responsibility. Stop calling them Canadian geese.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Good. That's good.
All right, let's move on the food.
Yeah, let's do it. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, we're going to move on the food chain, go talk a little bit different aspect of USL. Let's move on to our next story here on Monday's Morning Kick Around. Welcome on in. Over the weekend, big news in the front office for USL. Over the weekend, multiple reliable sources are reporting or saying that Deputy CEO and Chief Real Estate Officer at USL, Justin Papadakis, has been voted off the USL's board. A quote, Justin Papadakis has been relieved of his duties. It sounds like the new private equity money had enough seats on the board to move him, and that's just what happened, and there's going to be more changes to come.
Well, this is the bargain you make when you deal with private equity, when you bring in new money, when you bring in people who say, I have a stake in this and I want some control over how you're going to use my money because I want to see a return. I'm giving you my money with the idea that you're going to return something bigger to me at the end of the day. That's what private equity is all about. So this is a pretty big deal, right? Justin Papadakis, we've talked about him quite a bit because he's been the traveling salesman of the USL.
part of
right?
the
And
reason why the clanker came around, his
the
traveling
clanker,
whistle stop.
the clanger is a direct result of Justin Papadakis popping up in front of city councils in places with 50,000 people and saying, you should have a soccer club. Let me sell you on an idea. Have you ever thought about a soccer club? I mean, I don't remember the monorail episode from The Simpsons other than there was one, but I know that we joked about that. We're also Dot the Map, right? We're also abundance soccer people. At least I am. I will
Yeah.
speak for myself here. I want to see more clubs because I feel like until you get people directly involved through fandom, through growing a club, through being part of a community, through finding out what it's like to have something of your own in your town that's independent, that's aiming for a title. In the case of the USL, right? One of the selling points for Justin has been you can go up levels. We're going to create a pyramid and you can go from the bottom to the top. And we'll have a first division and we'll have high standards and we'll have a television contract, presumably all those things, right? So we are abundant soccer people in that sense. We back what the USL is doing. That doesn't mean that I give up my right to be critical of some of the methods, Rob. It doesn't mean that you and I can't say, well, I don't know about that, or there's kind of selling some snake oil here, or maybe that's not the best place to put a team. We're not above that just because we're saying yes, more soccer teams. But if Justin is being pushed out, and remember, Justin, people might call him a nepo baby. They might. I don't know that that's fair necessarily. He has done some very good things, right, for the USL over his career. But you think about his dad, who is the guy behind the scenes. He's the big man at USL. By the way, it's interesting timing too, because Alec Papadakis has just been named the Werner Fricker Builder Award winner for the U.S. Soccer or the National Soccer Hall of Fame this year. Is that correct, Rob? Do I have those details right?
Yeah.
So you have this situation now where the guy in charge of USL, the chief executive officer, Alec Papadakis, is awarded the Builder Prize for what he's done, while we are sitting here watching the USL kind of try to Johnny Appleseed their way across the country. And now the guy who was most responsible for that effort, who had chief real estate officer on his business card, is being pushed out.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's wild times, and I see some comments from our ultras, like with some trepidation about private equity jumping in and really, using their power as soon as they had it to arm in there. It's hard to know really what the outcome might be from this, but you could look on the other side of there's clubs folding. There's some places in the country that he's planted flags. Papadakis has planted flags that didn't come to fruition, and so you can poke holes in what he's done. Obviously, he's spreading USL, and under his purview, this grand plan has begun, but not a 100% hit rate by any means. And then some folks are saying maybe this is a good thing. It kind of takes it out of the hands of a family business, and there's more professionals in the room, in the halls of power. And like there's places like Cleveland and Milwaukee and Baltimore and places out west that are they were in the mix, but they don't seem like they necessarily are. And there's even places like Cleveland that MLS Next Pro got laid the first glove there. So maybe that has something to do with it as well. The private equity parts that people are nervous about is like, buying something and stripping it off and selling it off.
Yeah.
Part of that cycle of investment.
Well, let me address something you said in that stream of consciousness, which was that this is leveling up, that this becomes a more serious proposition, that you could read this as, okay, some adults are now in the room, or some people who have a sense of what the business element is, because without the business working, USL doesn't work, the clubs don't work, the new pyramid doesn't work, this isn't going to build out to what it could possibly be one day, right? And American soccer is nothing if not the promise of potential over and over and over and over and over again since 19 whatever. You can go back to the 30s if you want. You can certainly go back to the late 60s. We just do this all the time. Like, oh, soccer could be huge if only. So is private equity stepping in? Because they trumpeted this news, Rob. They celebrated Bell Tower and what is it? Weather Tower? I don't know. What was the other one?
It is Weatherford Capital and Bell Tower are the two.
Weatherford Capital and Bell Tower. We need a job naming private equity firms because I think I got the vibe of this. Anyway, they trumpeted this as proof of their concept, right? Look at this money that's coming in. Clearly, these very smart people with a lot of cash believe in what we're doing. And that's a fine way to sell it from a public relations standpoint. But again, on the other side of it is those people now want to have control, and they've got, by buying in, they get seats on the board, and they look around, they go, well, I don't like that, or I don't like this, or this is not the way to go about it. So without judging this, without saying, oh, this is good or bad, because I don't think I know, it's going to be fascinating to watch how the private equity money comes into play. And to your point about, I think of Toys R Us, I think of Red Lobster, I think, and these are businesses that sell goods, or in the case of a restaurant, Sports Illustrated. That's actually a good one, right? They are taken over by private equity, and what private equity does isn't, hey, let's build this business so it's as profitable as possible. They go, how can we cut down cost completely so that we can all get our money out and make it a pretty immediate return rather than a long-term? Private equity is not usually think 20 years down the road, Rob.
Yeah, and that's what this plan is. So I'm really curious as what the play is here. So as a thought experiment, what could they strip down and sell off at this point? There's independent clubs, sure, they have their stadiums, but there isn't like one golden ticket of a club. There isn't. I'm not sure if there's any, if the USL like central office has ownership stakes in any buildings or anything like that. But what does the USL currently have at this state that they could strip down and sell off?
That I don't think that's a good question. I don't see a lot, right? I mean, I don't. The clubs are individual businesses. Remember that. The private equity does not care if the clubs are making money, losing money. That doesn't matter to them. They can't do anything to New Mexico United, to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, to Charleston Battery. They cannot dictate anything. Those are individual businesses who are going to run their businesses as they see fit. USL is the corporate entity, is the organizer of the league, right? They are the one selling franchises. So if the business is selling franchises, Rob, right? Because that's what Justin Papadakis was doing. He was going out to sell franchises. He was showing up in a town, telling the city council, hey, with a couple of things, tweaks here or there, you can turn that stadium into a soccer stadium. Or, hey, I got a proposition for you, and I got some people who want to do a mixed-use development, and they want to build a soccer stadium. We'll put a team here. It'll be great. Right? That's what we're doing. That's what they're doing. It's the real estate speculation that these people are invested in, the private equity people. So what kind of change to the approach? If Justin Papadakis was doing the Johnny Appleseed Act, if he was traveling salesmaning American soccer with the USL brand attached, what change comes now that he's no longer the guy doing that?
And those messages that we received and have heard, that this isn't the only change. So we'll see. I mean, it can be a complete reformation of the corporate structure of the United Soccer Leagues. We will see what more comes to play.
Let me address this from Las Chivas. So real estate is less risky financially, but soccer is booming. So I imagine they want to link up the clubs and even league even closer to the profitable youth soccer model. Right? Look at what's happening in Homestead, Florida, with that project, right? Which is privately financed, right? The city is involved in some manner, but it's privately financed. And when we say privately financed, remember, you have to look under the hood a little bit. And sometimes you'll find out, oh, that land in the best part of town, and that's not Homestead, but there are examples. That land in the best part of town was leased by the city for $1 to a private firm coming in and spending their money to build. So it's a privately financed project, except for the fact that they're getting the land for nothing. Right. So that, again, this is where you have to look and say, okay, what's the money-making proposition? And to Arribas Lativas' point, the idea that youth soccer and these professional teams can be linked up through real estate deals sounds very, very likely as a target. just sounds as like something you, again, this idea that we can build a soccer team and have a professional soccer team and have a big brand, right? And have everybody rally around that. But also we can build out a youth soccer scheme. We can have fields, we can have teams. That's where the money's at.
You're selling jerseys to families. You're selling travel packages. You're doing the whole kit and caboodle. So I could see where like the dollar signs getting your eyeballs.
Right, and they're kicking out that money back up to USL, right? That's the deal here, right? You have to kick that money back up, and it's not trickling down. There's no like, and again, broadcast rights, things like that are also probably on the table. We could do it all day.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Thank you for joining us here this morning. We have a great guest coming up in a couple minutes. Maybe if he comes in a couple minutes late, maybe we could hit that private equity name generator for a second. But want to say thank you to Mr. Bob and all those who have checked in or donated this morning. And then also be sure to check us out across all the various platforms at MKickaround. On Instagram, Blue Sky, and all those others. And then do we have our guest? I can't scroll. I'm on the road, so I only have the one screen.
Not yet.
So it's
not yet. No.
All right. So a couple notes. Did you see the second ball madness in Oakland?
I did. I'm actually pondering doing a little roundup on some of the weird soccer things that happen in American soccer for my newsletter. So I'm gonna have some comment over there, I think. But yeah. Does anybody, I wish we had the video, Rob. You bring this up without the video, and now people are gonna go, what the hell are you talking about? Describe the scene for us. You're a commentator. Give me a commentating viewpoint on this.
So Oakland Roots are down deep in stoppage time at home looking for an equalizer, I believe. So their goalkeeper comes up to the penalty area in the attacking area of the field to try to get a late heroic equalizer, but the ball does not go towards him, and the ball starts going down the other end of the field. So the goalkeeper runs behind the net and throws the second ball that was behind the goal onto the field to try to disrupt the breakaway going the other way down the field. And his throw wasn't close enough to the breakaway for it to upend action. And so, to add ridiculousness to the goalie doing that was the long-range chip into the open net was chased down and cleared off the line by the Oakland Roots player. So I've never seen that before. I've never seen a player, he looked pretty intentional, run behind the opposing goal, throw a second ball, tried to get the game whistled down. But he eventually got a red card for his actions and a first. Right. He made some highlight reels online around the world. Never seen that before.
I've seen multi-ball happen through accidental circumstances. I've never seen multi-ball on purpose. That is a wild thing.
Maybe a crowd or someone throwing it on there to be disruptive, but never an active player. Run off the field, throw one in to try to break it up. But fascinating stuff. Yeah, we don't want to work stoppage. We would have lost that. That would never have happened. But our guest has arrived. So we're going to move along and talk about the madness that is the World Cup and the new World Cup ticket purchasing window that's opening up on April 1st. Stick with us, and we'll move to our next topic here on Morning Kickaround. Welcome in. Our hot topic today is a World Cup topic. So I'll let you know that our World Cup coverage is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of bleeding purple in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Visit Oakland County FC online for a schedule and tickets, but also check out the Instagram page for a chance to win a trip, an all expenses paid trip to TST in Cary, North Carolina. So go on over to OCFC's Instagram page for that. But good morning. We have our good friend of the show, Danny from TravelFutbolFan, and we have you on just before another week of madness for your coverage and for anyone that wants to go to the World Cup this year.
Yes, and it's historic in so many ways that I just kind of wish it was just the most mundane thing ever.
Yeah.
But it's not, though.
But it
Yeah,
never is.
look, I know that you're out here doing work. Danny's on the rise as a minor soccer celebrity because of doing this work. So on the one hand, it's good for you, but obviously, look,
Thank you.
this is
Yeah.
not the experience we want,
No
Danny.
one drew
It's
it up
not.
this way, right?
No, definitely not. I mean, it definitely has been one of these things where like this project of covering this tournament here went from like, hey, I think I said before, right, like a travel advisor type of situation to like, oh my goodness, look at all the things that are on fire. We're still trying to keep some sort of positivity going, and so to just kind of just break the glass of what's going to happen with phase 4, we get to pick our seats now. Never happened before. And so if you haven't bought tickets and you somehow get through the probably multi-hour queue that's going to probably happen starting this Wednesday at 11 a.m., you get to pick seats for, I'm assuming, all the categories, although, again, majority of the tickets being sold are category 1 and 2. So I don't know what seats are going to be available. And for those of us that did purchase tickets already, we're going to be assigned our seats. Again, we don't know if we're getting put towards the back of the sections and then they'll sell the more, like, I guess, nicer seats towards the front. We don't know any of this whatsoever. So that's the history.
And when did this pop up that there was going to be a window? I mean, hopefully it's not April Fool's, but April 1st this goes online. When did this news pop up? Was this
April 1st is a perfect day for this to go online. Let's go.
I
Let's go.
cannot believe the marketing people that was hired by FIFA that told them to put this thing on April Fool's, because I do have comments on my content saying, is this an April Fool's joke? Because I mean, like, of course, right? Like you're just further creating this chaos that is so unnecessary. But FIFA did post this on their socials last week that this was going to be the case. And I think The Athletic also had the article breaking down that this is going to be the first time that fans are going to be able to pick their seats. And so this is just introducing more chaos to a process that they have themselves made chaotic, right? If already for the first 3 phases and the FIFA Collect, NFTs, if you told people they couldn't pick seats but now you're going to tell them, oh, psych, I guess you could pick seats now. It's just going to create all this chaos, at least through the official channels, right? Through FIFA Collect and whatnot, of who's sitting where, right? In that respect, right? And also with the rules of only 4 maximum per game that each person can buy, 40 in total. It's really is a recipe for disaster in that respect.
So I'm recalling something that you said on our show on one of your first appearances on Morning Kickaround, and it was something about, I mean, you mentioned a couple of games, like with the number of ticket requests, or the when FIFA was in the very early stages and fielding all of these requests, and you were like, okay, that's great. Are they all for 1 or 2 games? Like, don't you potentially have a problem here with, yeah, you can trumpet this big number, but ultimately you've got lots of games that probably aren't selling out. So this seems, again, we're in this situation where nobody really knows how popular this tournament's going to be yet, right?
At least from ticket sales, right? Again, if you're going to measure popularity by ticket sales, yes. But I think we had the clue in phase 3.5, right? That random one that they just decided to throw an email out and, create even more chaos. And this was a couple weeks ago. I think the final number was 64 of the 104 games were on sale during that phase 3.5. Okay. And so that would tell us a vast majority of these games have not sold out, not even close. And even FIFA in this final phase, they're not putting all the tickets out on sale, which is kind of a known, right? A known factor, because phase 4 technically lasts until the last day of the tournament. That's just, this is open phase now. But they themselves have said that they're going to hold tickets back to sell even on game day. So this is all creating this artificial scarcity that I think myself and a lot of fans caught on very early. You can't be saying you sold out all these games, but then throw a random phase in, give a bunch of tickets to sponsors, right? Like it's just too chaotic of a process. And then themselves are trying to say like, oh yeah, they're trying to create this artificial demand that at least through ticket sales does not exist, or at least with that 500 million ticket request number that we talked about, everyone either requested the top 20 team games or category 3 seats. Again,
right.
Those are the least amount of available tickets.
So for, expecting this to like go correctly on April 1st, where do people need to go in order to either sign up or purchase these, if this goes to plan?
Yeah, so FIFA.com/tickets is the website to go to. And that's a very common question a lot of folks are asking right now, because then for those that purchase tickets through the third-party resale markets, oh boy, now that's a whole different ball game in that respect, because, or at least in terms of what I'm predicting, or at least what I'm seeing, is that, first of all, now you're going to see price variations all over the map, right? Because now everyone that's going to get assigned their seats on April 1st are now going to know, oh, if they're reselling their ticket, now I know whether I got a really good seat or a really bad seat. Bad seat, assuming, right, towards the back of a specific section. And so if those sellers have those types of seats that are towards the back of the section, they're going to have to reduce the price, because people are going to be like, no, you have that seat. I want to go be further up front. And then that's going to create a lot of price fluctuations in the third-party resale market, right? That's why I'm also encouraging folks that did buy tickets through like StubHub, Vivid Seats, all these other websites, make sure you actually get confirmation of tickets this week from whoever sold you those tickets, because then if they can't tell you that where you're sitting now, that probably means that that person was sold you a ghost ticket. They're desperate to find tickets to give to you, because, they in effect initiated the sale. And I don't want you to get to game day without a ticket because they never had one in the first place. So, yeah,
that's good. That's good advice to check to see if you have a seat. I'd say clip that one, Jenny. That's really the pull away for anyone who's bought tickets on a third party site. So that's really good information to know. Last week, though, there was kind of a dry run for a game in Boston. I saw some people complaining about some traffic, and then maybe even an increase of ticket prices for the limited amount of public transportation going between Boston and Foxborough. Was there any ticketing issues with that, or just logistics?
I don't think I heard ticketing issues. It was definitely just more of the logistics, and a crash course for folks not knowing that that Foxborough and Boston are not the same place. They saw all the traffic that was happening. They saw, of course, with the MBTA announcing the $75 round trip ticket, which I, for once, defended a price increase on anything, but if only because it's public transit. But even then, right, it's public transit to a stadium and not towards, communities and, places of work, right? Where actual improvements in transit are needed, right, in our local communities, as opposed to a stadium. But I think this was also kind of part of my core mission with my content. It's like, folks, Foxborough is not in Boston. Miami Gardens is not in Miami. San Jose is not in San Francisco. Like, you have to know this stuff, right? Fans that those fans that got stuck and were walking on trade tracks. I mean, I get it. You got stuck in traffic, but you also probably should have known. Like, at this point, I think there's a lot of information out there to let fans know where you have to go and what to expect. If you are still arriving to the World Cup not knowing how to get to a place, that's kind of on you at this point. Like,
Well, so Armando is saying that FIFA has done a terrible job explaining how most of these large stadiums are nowhere near the city they say they're in.
Of course.
I mean, is that on, like, I'm not going to defend FIFA very far if I can help it, but is that on FIFA to be like, it says it right? I mean, you can look up the stadium.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the guy that apparently wanted to go and see Barcelona at St. James's Park in Newcastle, and he got to London and he put in his map and he went to the wrong place, and he went to like some third division game, and they're like, oh, you're a fan for life now, because he went to the wrong St. James's Park. I guess that happens. Again, like, just be aware, I suppose.
Yeah.
On the ticket price thing, obviously we continue to hammer this story that, and FIFA keeps saying things like, well, Americans are used to it. And I mean, I don't know, that makes me so mad. And of course, FIFA keeps taking hits. Like, here's an article from The Independent: Euro 2028 tickets to cost less than a parking space at the 2026 World Cup. Now, if you're coming from somewhere else, you're probably not parking, but still, it's a good point that we're not making the game accessible in this big moment in the country day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think this idea, right, of America's are like, who are you talking about? Because, like all of us here, we all represent different shades of America. Yeah. And we all love the sport so much. And we hate the system that we're in. it's baked into not only our economic system and our political system, because these companies that do sell these tickets at these outrageous prices lobby Congress, right? And it's kind of like, right, throwing a little bit of the politics in it, but that's just the reality of it. They lobby Congress millions of dollars in order to keep these policies in place. And until us, the fans, push our members of Congress for some reforms on these third-party resale platforms and how tickets are sold, unfortunately, we're going to continue to see this. But this is not, and I agree with you, Jason, this is not to say that we love this system. America does not love the system. Just as I would say, I didn't like that 3-minute hydration break that they were doing in the France-Colombia game. We don't like maybe a halftime show. Okay, that's maybe a too controversial, but we're not trying to Americanize this game. If anything, it's the powers to be there.
It's corporatizing it. Americans are allowed to corporatize the sports in a way that they aren't in other places, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, yes, we societally are guilty on some level of letting, especially the NFL, and I would say to some extent the NBA, turn our sports into these, insane productions and then gouge us for tickets. But I, and again, I understand. I'm as cynical as they come, and it's really hard to imagine people acting in good faith if they're not forced to. they're not being demanded, hey, stop gouging people, as long as people pay the ticket prices. I don't know, man. I'm not arguing for anybody to skip the World Cup if it's coming here and you have the resources to go. I'm not going to be mad at you if you do. But it obviously would send a message to FIFA, and it would maybe send a message to everybody else in sports and who's in charge of handling the idea of ticket prices and parking space prices and everything else. Like, hey, maybe there is an end to this. Like, maybe this well does eventually run dry. People are going to stop showing up if you keep doing this. But that's not where we're at. We're not there yet.
Well, there's definitely an appetite. That game in Florida you referenced, I think you were at the Columbia game. That looked, well attended. And will it be? Do you think that a handful of games are packed to the rafters, and then the less attractive globally, are we seeing sparse attendances? You think?
Oh, I think Danny froze.
I actually was in my mind. I was gonna kudos to Danny for like his presence and stability. I'm always bouncing around and being silly, and I was actually very impressed with his discipline on staying in the shot there. But unfortunately, we lost Danny there. I was just gonna say before we let him go that I recall the manager of Scotland a couple months ago when the ticket prices started becoming more public knowledge, and he was asking people to please not sell their homes in order to get there. So mark it, March 28th, the first headline I saw, Englishman sells home to pursue World Cup dreams across the United States. So mark it, end of March, already got our first story with that. And we got Danny popping back in here, it looks, for final thought.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Danny, I know, so obviously you're based here. I know you probably helped a lot of people in the US. Some people like yourself, want to travel to Mexico. But there was a story a couple days ago at The Athletic as well. Adam Crafton, who's been covering this, certainly the foreign travel element of this more than anybody. World Cup fans from several nations facing $15,000 bonds to enter the United States. And players might not be exempt. I mean, this is insane, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I know that I had some comments saying, well, it's a bond, right? You'll get the money back. Well, this administration has proven that they're not doing that with regular migrant applications for various visas and other spaces. So no, you can't trust this administration for, to give back that money, but also assuming that, these, the fans that are coming here have that amount of money on top of everything else that they have to pay for, right? Yeah. To enter this country. This is all part, I would say, of this idea that then why are we hosting the most globally diverse sporting event if we're not going to be welcoming hosts to this, right?
Yeah, right.
Folks that are coming here from other countries probably are better off in their own societies. And so like all they're doing is to come here, enjoy the games, go back home. This is not an immigration plan to get in, or at least very doubtful that they're going to use a marquee event like this to get in when there's, quite frankly, easier ways, maybe, or like other ways, we'll say other ways. So I think this is just unfortunate that this is only highlighting how unwelcoming we are towards other fans. And quite frankly, FIFA, where are you? Like, you're not even going to protect the players at least. Like, I mean, fans, okay, that's one thing. I mean, FIFA's really been hands off with like assisting with visas. I know they had the FIFA Pass program, but that only gets you the interview, not the visa in its full form. Like, yeah, it's unfortunate. It really is.
So one quick thing, you were there on scene for the Columbia game in Florida. How was your experience?
DC. Sorry, Robert.
In DC, apologies.
Yeah.
But how was the experience for you going in and out, security and all that?
Well, apparently there was some issues with staffing, and so like if anything, that's I hope that's one thing that the host cities don't do in the World Cup is be cheap on staffing, because or else you're gonna have people waiting outside 10, 20, 30 minutes already. The game has happened, and then not only have these fans paid all this amount of money, now they're going to be late to a World Cup game.
Well, and this is something, Danny, that's come up. Obviously, we talked about Foxborough. They eventually got their deal done, and it had to be the Crafts to step up and actually pay the money to the town of Foxborough, so they weren't going to get screwed on the security costs. But this is going to be a general thing, because cities know that they got bad deals from FIFA. Everybody knows it's a raw deal. That's why Chicago's not hosting games. And so I imagine there might be some scrimping and saving on this, because, we don't know if we're getting this money. Again, with DHS still technically shut down, I'm living this life because my wife is actually a DHS employee. She had to go back to work.
Yeah.
Eh,
Is any of this legal? Nobody really knows. So they're not distributing the funds that they're supposed to be distributing from the bill that was passed last year that was supposed to cover some of these security costs in these places. So if these cities are not sure they're going to get their money, be very wary of that. I hopefully that's not something that becomes a major issue as we move forward.
So just get early. I mean, unfortunately, it's kind of simple, even maybe dumb advice, but get to the games early, because, like you said, we don't know how this is all going to look like. The traffic getting into the stadium, granted with more parking spaces, was still also very bad. Expect that to be even worse with less parking spaces available, with more of a security perimeters being put in all of these stadiums. So, folks, just get early, have this plan. Know where you're going. Know the difference. If you have to travel 40 miles out to the stadium, you got to know these things beforehand.
Literally make a day of it. I mean, that's a saying for going out and about afterward, but make a day of it and get there at the beginning of the day.
And anybody traveling right now is probably getting some good practice standing in line for multiple hours at a time.
We didn't even talk about that.
Well, again, I don't know. By the way, somebody in our chat who's not an ultra, so I can't put his comment on screen, has identified your background, Danny. He says he knows that's Barranquilla that you have in your background. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
Colombia. All right. Very good. I have never been. Would love to go. I only know the song. So
it was great. I mean, and great environment for the World Cup too. So I can't wait to go back to see more games over there. It's just always a different environment. So yeah.
All right, let the people know where to find your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at TravelFutbolFan across all my socials on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Now on Facebook as well, if you're still on that. And then you can visit my website, TravelFutbolFan.com, where, you can see some app travel deals. I'm trying to get some hotels to give us some discounts too. So if you're looking for some of that, I'm trying to work with that as I know we only got 73, 74 days left to go. And many of us, are still trying to figure out our travel plans for this World Cup. So, just keep following me on the socials, see what you can get. And I appreciate y'all. Seriously, this has been quite the project I've undertaken. I honestly can't wait for it to be done, but at the same time, I can't wait for the summer to start.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us again.
I don't want the rest of it, but thank you, Danny.
Thank you for being a great resource and filling us in step by step, Danny. Thank you so much to him. A great resource for anything around getting to the World Cup or getting tickets. Before we get to our next segment, remind you again that World Cup coverage is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of Bleeding Purple in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Visit Oakland County FC's website for schedule and tickets and many more announcements. And you can also enter a sweepstakes on the Instagram for an all expenses paid trip to TST in Cary, North Carolina. So check that out. We got one more story on the way. Let's take a breath, come right back, and return to our questions for the men's national team here on Morning Kickaround. Saturday afternoon, Atlanta, Georgia, United States men's national team 2 and Belgium 5. It was 1-1 at the half, but things kind of fell apart in the second half for the men's national team. There was a color clash, 2 light shirted teams facing off against each other. On Friday, we had 3 big questions for this game. We got some answers to that, but I think more questions have been added outside of those in general.
Yeah, of course. Well, look, I mean, you take a 5-2 beating on home soil and people are going to ask some questions, Rob. Now, we can go back through the things I brought up on Friday, which I think are still pertinent, but I'm going to do a little bit of panic reduction work
Okay.
right here.
Okay, I like a reducer, a de-escalation of sorts.
This is a de-escalation. That's right. I am in the business now of trying to calm people down. That second half, while bad, is not really all that representative of where this team is, in my mind. That first half is much closer to where we would expect them to be at the World Cup. Now, yes, they gave up 5 goals, and it shouldn't matter who's on the field. Oh, we got depth issues. Yeah, wait, maybe we do have depth issues. Certainly Christian Pulisic didn't play all that well, right?
No.
The United States has some decent players, and I think is going to be fine at the World Cup. I cannot, and I saw it in the Discord, and I love you all, Ultras. I love you all. Thank you for supporting the show. I cannot with this. We're getting grouped. We'll be the first team to ever to fail to win a game in the group stage as a host nation. That's not happening. It's not going to happen. The United States is not going to get grouped, and they're not going to fail to win a game in the group stage for the first time in whatever World Cup history as a host nation, if that's even a fact. They're not world beaters. They're not a favorite to win the World Cup, but we knew that going in, right? Again, when you watch that first half, Rob, did you think, oh man, Belgium is running laps around the United States. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, we're in so much trouble. Mauricio Pochettino is a fraud. We're gonna go down in flames in the summer. Did you think that in the first half?
Well, my view of it was a little bit tainted because I watched it on playback when I already knew the result and I was waiting for the shoe to drop. But yeah, it looked even to me in the first half. I wasn't like super concerned. I know there was a lot of debate about that first shot, whether Matt Turner could have done better or some of the defenders could have maybe committed a little bit more to blocking it. Sure. And I mean, that comes to one of our questions as well. But the second half didn't have I was waiting for it to get bad when I was rewatching it, and it hadn't yet turned that way until the second half. The first half, I wasn't other than the color clash, I wasn't really put out by what I saw in the first half.
Okay, the color clash was ridiculous, by the way. Who's making those choices?
Yeah, and I saw a lot of comments on it. And as a former youth soccer player, you always bring the second shirt if the other team shows up in your same color. Like, that's just a standard at any level. I mean, warm-up tops, nothing.
I imagine the U.S. was like, these are our brand new kits and we're a home nation. Of course we want to wear our stripes and go out there and show off our home look. Why Belgium didn't change, I don't know. I turned the game on and was like, what the hell is going on? Christian Pulisic said it was an issue on the field. Like, certainly from the press box and watching on television, it seemed ridiculous.
There's quotes from Belgian players saying that it was really bothering them. I mean, not as much as USA, but apparently.
Well, I mean, either way. I mean, and again, Jeremy Doku is a problem for everybody. Now, Tim Weah in the first half did okay. Doku really didn't break out. Like, he was dangerous. You could see every time he got the ball, there was danger there. But for the most part, they kind of kept him contained. Then things broke open, obviously, in the second half, right? Things got very bad in the second half. And I don't know, the penalty on Tim Ream. Yeah.
Harsh, but I mean, there wasn't anything to overturn it.
No, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be called a penalty on the field if the referee sees a handball there. I'm just saying that is a circumstantial moment that adds a goal to the scoreline that brings the psychology of we got romped. And again, I think with 11 substitutes available, now I think Belgium used all of theirs. The United States did not. You had only one halftime sub, which is Christian Roldan for Johnny Cardoso. And again, the U.S. was better.
Still not stepped up.
Well, I think he was okay. and he's a defensive midfielder,
Yeah.
and that's not what Roldan is. So you're asking, Roldan's not bad, and maybe he is meant as a depth piece in that regard, but Johnny is straight up a defensive midfielder playing alongside Tanner Tessman. Like, I just think the balance of the game was never going to give us a real view of where they are. Again, this is not me saying that they're good. This is not me saying they're going to win the World Cup or be a semifinalist. I cannot, with the doom and gloom, we're getting grouped. They're not going to get grouped. I'm sorry. That's not going to, I don't know why people seem to want that to happen. It's not going to happen. They're going to be fine to get out of the group. Round of 32, I don't know. Round of 16, I don't know. Right? But it is a friendly with weird substitution rules, with a kick clash and several players missing who would otherwise be there. And I know you can never count on everybody being healthy, but that team is different if Tyler Adams is on the field, right? I definitely think that. Maybe Serginho Dest isn't a starter if Tim Weah's got that spot. I don't know. But there are other options that would have been involved who were not in this game. Just want to keep that it's a perspective thing. Again, panic reduction.
Yeah, I like that. That was a very good attempt at de-escalation, and but I got to say that while all those caveats are true, and it is hard, you got to take a grain of salt with the results in any friendly, regardless of like literally 11 changes and all the caveats that came with that. But you got to say that when you look at our squad up and down, and then in the moments in the 45 minutes where it was a little bit more of a true game, you wouldn't say that they were fully baked, or you'd say this is a squad that can really take down a powerhouse. Like I'd say they're still in progress. I wouldn't call them a fully baked squad. And I wouldn't say that
they were better in the first half though, Rob. They were better than Belgium. They were better. Again, whether or not you don't have to take anything away from that either. You don't have to look at that and go, well, that's only the first half counts, and therefore we were better than Belgium, which means we're fine. I'm not suggesting that either. I'm saying it is all questionable evidence from the opening whistle to the final whistle. It's all questionable evidence, and building up any opinion about this team and their chances of the World Cup based on that seems ridiculous to me.
All right, to wrap up our segment, so we'll revisit our 3 questions from Friday. How many minutes will Gio Reyna play, over or under 45?
So what did we get out of this game, Rob?
So out of this game one, he came in the 70th minute. So he's at his 20 minutes. So so he's still at the under for 45 minutes. That could go either way when they take on Portugal on Tuesday evening. And the second question was, where will Weston McKennie play? And we got that answer. He's more of in the forward positions.
Yeah, he's up front, where I think is best utilized in this team. Maybe not he scored the goal. It's obviously a nice little set piece routine. Interesting, by the way, to note that Jedi Robinson took the set piece there. It had been Pulisic. Everybody complained about Pulisic's service. Apparently, if on the field, even with Pulisic there, a left-footed player taking an in-swinger is ultimately what you got there.
And then the third question, which I think is still up for debate, is will we get any confidence in a first goalkeeper? We referenced will we have confidence in Matt Freese as the first goalkeeper, but that got blown up by the starting selection of Matt Turner. And obviously 5 goals went in, but not all of them his fault. But it wouldn't say his performance gave us any confidence in goalkeeper 1.
Yeah, I think, it was a surprise that Turner got the start over Freese, number 1. I think Matt Turner is a good reaction shot stopper. That's not to say that his technique is always great. Certainly punching the ball out back in front of him, bad idea. Please don't do that. So I don't love Matt Turner being back. I don't know what Pochettino was trying to accomplish there. I'm sure he's discussed it. Maybe we need to pull up some comments in order to get the full context. But I imagine Matt Freese will start against Portugal.
Yeah, that's USA versus Portugal Tuesday evening, and we will be back on Wednesday morning. I should be back in the home studio as well. We got a couple of guests lined up for Wednesday, and we'll see if Gio breaks 45 minutes after that game and see if we are still in alert stations. Will you be building us up or tempering expectations after Tuesday's game, Jason? We shall see. Thank you to all of the donations and the memberships during today's show. And in general, MK Ultras, thank you so much for supporting the program. And spread the word of mouth. And maybe some sharing of links is the best way to let everyone know about morning kick around. You got any notes? Before we go, I do want to say a tip of the hat to Denver Summit for breaking the record for a professional, I think, attendance in a professional women's game in all sports. I think it was over like 63,000. So big note, and kudos to that. Definitely notable for Denver. Big start for them. So we'll be back on Wednesday. And until then, everybody stay safe, continue being brave, and enjoy your soccer.